I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Yo, it's the Plague. This is a special episode of The Gloom. We've taken all of our episodes, 47 different leaders across the region, including the F3 Nation Nantan Dread, and we've chopped and screwed and mixed them to provide you one episode, including all of their advice regarding FNGs. It's officially FNG season. Guys coming out of the woodwork from the winter time, and this is some great advice in one place to help you as you're encountering those packs. We have access to so many great leaders, and I hope you'll take advantage of this, take a listen, and apply this as you're out there in the gloom. Peace.
S3, for someone new, is you come out the first time and you're kind of, you're a little hesitant, you're scared, you're wide-eyed, you're not really knowing what's going on. We're using all these acronyms and funky names for things and, in cadence, and you're like, is this military? Why am I here? I'm not in, I don't know what's really going on. But what I really encourage people to do is come out a second time. I think that second time is when you see that, you see that growth, and you do see deer in the headlights a lot with those first people, that initial FNG. But the second time, it's just, they've only been there one time before, but they just feel so much more comfortable. And I just think that a lot of guys that have turned F3 away, a lot of times you don't see them after the first time. And I think that's really important to get them out a second time. And I actually think that the book talks about that too. It's like getting them out that second time so that you can kind of build that and make them feel comfortable. I think a big thing too, and, I kind of mentioned this earlier, it's hard for me to make friends. So maybe I'm not the guy that's going to go, be in the FNGs group or, I don't want to say not help them, because I definitely will help them in any way that I can, but just encouraging them, afterwards, just going up, be like, welcome, thank you for coming. Like, I really appreciate you being here. And then, as we always say, the coffees too, also where you get them. The coffee's kind of where they just that's when they start becoming friends. They talk to everybody and everybody kind of welcomes them, and they're not sitting off on their own. And I think that's where they realize they're like, oh man, I feel comfortable already. So I think those are some big things.
Going back to the veterans and even the new guys, I think everyone needs to have an 8 block. Everyone needs to go listen to the podcast and understand what an 8 block is. And in the 8 block aspect, every single guy that's part of F3 should have the 8 block filled out, and really touching on 3 key things here. Number 1, having a fitness goal. You need to have a goal for your fitness. It needs to have a short term and a long term. I don't care what that goal is. Maybe your goal is to post every day in the winter. Maybe your goal is to run a 5K. Maybe your goal is to run a marathon. I don't know what your goal is. The goal is unique to you, but you have a short-term goal, you have a long-term goal. So that way you're accelerating towards it. Because if you don't have that goal, you're not going to achieve it. And it's easy to check that off once you hit the short term and to keep expanding that. The second is in all 3 areas. So not just fitness, but you should have a second F goal. You should have a goal to, Pony, you can attest to this today. The first thing I did after the workout this morning, I had to go to Shield Lock meeting. So I texted you and Ponzi and just gave you my feedback on the workout. I just said, hey, it was the most fun workout I've been to since COVID. You guys did a killer job. But every day at the end of the workout, I'm texting somebody to say something. And it's sometimes to ask questions, sometimes it's a prayer for somebody I know is struggling, but taking the time. And that's my second F goal is it's not I'm doing it because I have the goal. It's a reminder, kind of like the opportunities to donate to things and or to get involved in third F stuff. It's hey, relationships matter and texts matter. And I mean, I know this has been talked about in the Gloom before, but if you get one of those coveted texts from Khakis, I mean, that will make my day when he's like, hey, that was a good workout. I was like, oh, he just said that. That must have been a good workout. If Khaki sent a text about it, that made my day. So it's being intentional on that. And the same thing on the third F, like finding something to get involved in, something to connect with folks on, and to have a relationship with the community about. And that it's not just there, it's also for your kids, for your spouse or significant other. It's setting the goals aspect. And really the 8 block is intended to do that so that we have priorities on the things that matter in life. And not everything that matters is your career and work. There's a lot of things that matter outside of that that's going to bring you joy and happiness.
Picking up the 6 is huge. Mm-hmm. And I say that picking up the 6, I don't mean necessarily the guy that's new and slowest, but we got to pick up the 6 at a cafeteria.
I love that.
So maybe a guy is sitting off by himself, or
that's
he's
really
new, and engage him. Invite him over to sit with you. Talk to him while he's standing in line. You know, to me, that's picking up the 6. If there's a guy that's new that's at Q Source, and it's probably a little uncomfortable to share, you know, maybe pull him aside and say, hey, it'd be great to get your perspective on this. Maybe not today, but, you know, in the future. I think that's picking up the 6. So I think that's huge, making them feel a part of the community, which so many guys do so well. But I'm guilty of it. Like, I go to a cafeteria, and I immediately gravitate toward the guys I know. Like, I'm looking for pantyhose and Chucky and Nail It, and, you know.
Right.
And I could do a better job of seeking out guys I don't know as well. And even, I would say this too, because I'm at fault for this as well. Hitting up different sites.
Yeah.
I'm never disappointed when I take the time to go to a different site. And I'm not even saying, like, I don't even necessarily think you got to go to a different site every week. You know, maybe once a month, twice a month. You say to yourself, all right, I'm going to hit up, I've never been there, or I haven't been there in a while, and I'm going to go to that one. First of all, I think you challenge yourself because you get out of your comfort zone and your routine. Mm-hmm. And secondly, you're probably going to run into somebody that you're going to have a meaningful conversation. I know I brought that up a lot, these meaningful conversations, but I really value those, and that happens. So,
well, I think that having that shared experience to struggle together is just so forging and so huge. So I'd invite the packs to be like both of you and pick up that 6. You know, you double back, and from a 6's standpoint, you know, I can speak for myself. It's always a lift. You feel like an actual pickup. It makes you stronger, and it's something that I've always, you know, I know that I got to run a little bit harder because you guys both ran twice as much just to come back and get me. So picking up the 6 is just something that F3 is about, and I think it's something we got to continue to do. And if you are the 6, don't worry about being the 6. It's okay to be the 6. I've been the 6 for the better part of 2.5 years, so it's okay to do that.
Introduce yourself to at least 3 people. You know, just if you can go to coffee, that's great, but talk to at least 3 guys that you don't know. And if you stand around after Name-A-Rama, they're probably going to come up and introduce themselves. But, you know, even if you got to get somewhere, everybody's got 5 minutes. Even if you don't have time for coffee, you got 5 minutes to hang around and talk with your buddy that brought you, or and just get to know a few people, and ask them, you know, where do you guys usually post? Where are you going to post tomorrow? I think that'd be my advice. And, you know, and we need to be good about following up with those guys and reaching out. And you know, if you EH'd them, if you brought them, you know, reach out and say, hey, this is where I'm going tomorrow. You know, this is the location close to you.
No, I know that a lot of the guys have said, you know, what's your advice to an FNG, and a lot of them are just saying, just come out and just do it. And I think that's great advice. There's nothing wrong with that advice. I think the advice that I would give to, current F3 guys and new ones, FNGs, is, hey, you know what? We're no different than you. And we're all vulnerable, and we're all men. And it's only going to excel you. So, if you're engaged in F3, continue. You can see it. You can reap the rewards of that. And if you're new with F3 and FNG, just trust the system. You got to look around and you go a couple times in post and you can just see how awesome the experience is, the COT, just the brotherhood. And we need that, especially nowadays with this crazy world that we're in. We need to have this sense of love and ownership amongst men, because we got to give that back to our homes and our community. And so where better to start that than being open to other men, so that you're like, hey, he's just like me. So yeah, I think just being vulnerable and just being
the thing for me, as far as PACs trying to new members, is I found that you kind of have to tailor your approach to whatever that particular person is dealing with at that moment of their life. Some people love to work out, and that's really what they're looking for. Other guys, maybe they're a rough patch in their life, and you're appealing to that sad clown within them. Other things maybe, hey, I'm looking for a group of guys that share similar values. And so maybe that third F component kind of connect with them a little bit. So I would say, you really have to tailor your conversation in the way that you tend to approach guys to try and EH them in, and just keep after them. You never know how long it might take them to come in. And then for the new guys, I think the biggest advice that I would have is just try and make a connection early on with people. I know that sometimes it's difficult for certain guys to come into a group of guys and they don't know what to expect, and it's all new. But as long as you try and form some of those connections early on, and the biggest thing is to get used to is going to be that mental shift. Like for me, I came out in the middle of winter, and I can't begin to tell you when the last time I had woken up at 4:45 to get to a 5:15 workout prior to that. And so for me, it was about changing my mentality and renewing my mind in that aspect. And sometimes it's a barrier, and you have to break through certain things. But at the end of the day, you can choose to make that decision. And if you choose to just go into it, the same thing as praying a prayer is, okay, thank you for the cold. You're making that choice to commit to it. That's definitely going to go a long ways. The thing that took me several weeks of when I first started working out was just the tiredness, and training my body to get up. But mentally, I kept on making that decision, taking the red pill. And so that's really the biggest thing, is making those connections early on. And then the mentality that you have on approaching it are going to go a long ways.
You run the risk, right, when you grow so fast that there's so much that guys, fall into the fold and they get missed. And so, for current PAX members, I've felt this oftentimes, and I've talked to John Claude and Gunnar and some of the other site queues, that the site queues can't do it alone. That when growth is exploding, when exponential growth is happening, that you can't do it alone, that you need other guys to lean in, to step up. And that's reaching out. Just something as simple as, most guys won't remember who the site queue is, but they will remember who the queue was from that workout, that very first workout. And just the importance of something as simple as, you were the queue, will you follow up with them that day or the next day? Just something as simple as that, letting them know that, hey, it was great to see you. We're glad you were here. Do you have any questions? Little things like that. But also needing those PAX members to make a connection. And so just remembering that, sometimes we show up at workouts and we want to get our fill, right? We want to lay it on the line for ourselves, but there are times when you just have to really fall back and embrace the new guy. And whether that's embracing him, checking in on him a couple of times during the workout, or working out with him the entire time. But that whole concept of picking up the 6, there are a lot of different variations of it. And so, figure out what that means for you. But figuring out why did you come back? That's the challenge that I always ask the guys in Sarpy County. Figure out your why. Why are you here? What's going on that continues to bring them back? And we need to extend that to the new people that are coming too.
Oh boy. I think just lean in, if it's just lean in, because this is an amazing group of guys. And like I said, the more that I felt like I was vulnerable and open, the more support I got. And, Plague said something earlier that was profound and fantastic. And it's just like showing who I was, warts and all, mistakes and all, and still getting a feeling of being loved was just life-changing, yeah. So that's what I would say to guys is lean in. Like, listen, you can come for the fitness. It's definitely going to do you some favors, and you can even get in with the fellowship and, maybe meet some guys to go golf with on the weekend or whatever. But if you really want it to change your life, then just fully lean in, be open, be vulnerable, and just, it's amazing what will come back to you.
A lot of guys have given the same advice, and if anyone's listening to this podcast for the first time, a lot of guys say, hey, give it a second chance, give it a third chance, give it a fourth chance, give it a fifth chance. I think the first time you come, F3 can be extremely strange and weird for a lot of guys. Even me, my second, third, fourth time, it was like a little bit strange, but because my neighbor EH'd me and so did Plague, who I saw once a week, I kind of had to keep coming back. But I would just encourage you to keep coming back. Know that it's not just about the fitness, but it's about the brotherhood. And you can really become a better husband, father, man, human being on this planet if you continue to come back. So that would be my encouragement.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely I would say you should persevere, but it's hard because we all have egos. And so if we get caught up in this comparison thing, you show up to your first F3 workout and, there's some guys that are super fit and that can be tough. But yeah, if you're a new guy and you've come to a couple workouts, I mean, I've been doing this long enough now, 2.5 years, that, I've seen guys come in and accelerate like crazy. And I mean, I'm not even going to name any guys because there's just so many of them. But so certainly persevere. And then for guys that are in the packs, and, I'm speaking to myself when I say this. So it's not a judgment or anything like that. But, when there's a new guy, notice them, go up to them, introduce yourself, and just maybe run a lap around the track with them. One of the laps or whatever, or ask them a question about themselves. I do not do that very well, but I certainly think that that's an easy thing that we can do. And there's a lot of guys that do it really, really well. And honestly, whenever I first showed up, Plague, you were a guy that did that for me. Slow Pitch was a guy that did that for me. And it makes a difference. Khakis was a guy, all those district guys that, this was back when there was only one site on a Monday. And that was huge for me.
That was what got me to come back, was the encouragement, because when I did that first workout there next to Safe Ride, slipping on my ass every time and kind of holding him up, we were definitely a 6. And I knew Safe Ride was in better shape than that. And the guys were all, great job. Hey, good to go. And it was just like, man, that's what brought me back, was the anti-boot camp mentality of no matter how badly you personally feel about doing it, don't feel bad about it. Keep coming out. It's encouraging. That's what this is about. It's we're going to have enough bad things out there to face every day. We don't need to face it here in the next 45 minutes when we're together. So it's just kind of like you said, the first quadrant of this whole F3 is to get right. And that's what this 45 minutes at 5:30 in the morning is. It's for you to come out here to get right. And all the guys you're going to see are going to encourage you, no matter if you do stop or anything like that. It's like, this is your time, 45 minutes, get right, and to come back out and do it again with us the next day, or when you're able to. I mean, I definitely wasn't an everyday guy right away, but the positive reinforcement and accolades and the pats on the back and encouragement, the text, and all that stuff that seems so minor is so huge and monumental that it's fabulous.
I would say just keep EHing, guys. There are so many people, so many guys in your life that could use F3, and F3 needs them. So don't hold back on EHing. I think there is some technique to it. So hopefully you're kind of figuring that out, or you're picking it up from listening to these podcasts on some techniques that work. I would say for the guys, keep looking for opportunities to lead, whether that's getting yourself on the queue schedule for the next workout, or maybe you're at a point where you want to step up and lead some more as like a site queue. I think there's a lot of site queues that might be looking for a successor in the near future. And so maybe have conversations with them about what that looks like. And I just, like every year around this time, I feel like pretty soon we're going to start talking expansion, because March hits and all of a sudden you got this influx of guys coming out, guys coming back that maybe had taken the winter off. And so I'm excited to see how F3 Omaha continues to grow. I think it's great, all of these other things that we keep doing.
I just think that it's find what works for you. Maybe it's a smaller workout. Maybe it's checking out, I don't know how many are there now? There's a lot. Maybe it's checking out a ton of different, workouts. That's what I tell people when they show up to me and they say, I went to that meeting and it kind of sucked. I'm like, well, there's like 800 a week, so check out another one. Try a different one, because you might not have the same experience. So, don't, try not to try something just once if you think it might work for you. Give it a little shot. Allow it to work.
Yeah, that's a good question. Anytime I'm in a workout, it's happened a couple of times this week, we've been lucky enough to have an FNG. I always find them at the end and just say, hey, great to have you. Just keep coming back. You don't have to answer every question right now. And don't overthink what this is. At the heart, this is a bunch of guys who want to get better, who do a beat down every morning, say a short prayer, and have a cup of coffee. And right now, that's all you need to know about it. And just keep coming back and leaning in. And that's what I would tell them. Don't overthink it. Lean in, come back, and just enjoy the experience.
I've, in listening to your podcast, agreed with a few things, and Sparty really stuck out last week. It was like, everybody's at a different point in their life, and F3 will be right for the people at that point in their life when it is time for it to be right in their life. So while I do believe in the mission and evangelizing to those sad clowns to offer them the opportunity, I'm not going to get lost on trying to make people come out, and we've all talked and we've all been faced with the EH that went too far. Or the EH, Tony the Tiger, if you're listening to this, he's like the anti-EH in Sarpy County. He like opens up with, "Hi, I'm Brandon. They call me Tony the Tiger. You should come work out." And then people run the other direction. So I love you, Tony. It's his birthday today, so I had to give him a shout out. So happy birthday, Triple T. To do better, I would say think bigger, think more, cast your net wide. It is easy to talk to your neighbor, right? But think more broadly in the people you interact with in your life, and have a timing component that fits. Honey, you're ahead of the game because you're pre-kids, but I think many of us, after we have children, lose focus in some components of our life, fitness being one of those, and having other dads that are going through or have been through that process and latching onto them and say, hey, there is an opportunity, there is a way. I'm sorry, at 20, there's no way I was setting my alarm at 4:15 because I was getting home at 4:15 from my extracurricular activities, whatever that may be. And it's a mentality component that we can't fabricate that for folks. And I think it's been tested and proven. We can't fabricate the readiness level, but we can be ready for them when the opportunity arises.
I would tell them that if the first thing people say is it's that it's so early. And here's what I would just say. It's only early if you're up till midnight. Now, what are you doing from 10 to midnight that's so important that you can't be in bed by 10, and instead of getting up at 6:30, you get up at 4:45. So those 2 hours, I ask, what are those 2 hours? Let's just flip the script for 2 hours of your life. Take 10 to midnight and stop doing whatever you're doing there, and take those and sleep, and take the 2 hours of sleep that you were getting over here and take them to F3. And if you don't tell me, you're a better person. And the noble excuses, those noble excuses that are good things, that's why they're called noble excuses. But no one has ever gone to F3 and become a poor father, become better, less in worse shape, right? That has performed worse at work that I know of, right? F3 doesn't do any of that stuff. It does the exact opposite. So those noble excuses where you're saying, I got to work, or I got to do a family, or if I got to do this, if you include F3 on a regular basis, you will do those better. Mm-hmm. That would be take those 2 hours and flip them, because that's what I did. Because those 2 hours I was spending were horrible 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it's a question everybody ponders and thinks about. Okay, because we've had our fair share of FNGs that come in, and and whether they get a great name or an awful name, it's how they connect and how they feel when they come in, and how welcomed are they. I know myself and a couple of the PAX members down in Sarpy, when we have a new guy come in, we don't keep on them, but we send them a quick text like, hey, thanks for coming. Because it can be overwhelming if you send websites and do all these things. You just kind of have a softer approach. Hey, we have workouts, if it's a Monday Murph and they come, we have a workout beat down tomorrow at Papio High. You don't call it sanitarium. You can't, they don't, a lot of the more simple and the less words we use that are F3 to add some normalcy to it, it kind of helps out. They'll get the lingo when they're into it and when they're going, but I think it's just trying to find some kind of connectability with them and saying, hey, because the number of packs that we've lost that haven't been put into MailChimp, or because of somebody forgets to do. I mean, and I'm susceptible. We made a mistake at the end of CSOP. We had 3 FNGs at CSOP, and not a one of us got their information. We have 3 site queues there, but not one of us said, hey, let's get these guys' info. We had to kind of scram to get it. And you're like, okay, that was that was a miss, but it was just because we were so in the moment. So those things do happen. But I think if you can find some sort of connection, first of all, who EH'd him, and I think that's always a good thing. Reach out to them. Hey, make sure you reach out to whoever it is to say, hey, loved having you out here. Kind of dip your toes in. Here's our schedule, because there's not everybody's going to be, a Farva where like I'm in, or a Swiper. Like Swiper just saw it on Twitter because some of his neighbors are doing it, and he's like, I'm in. And he started pre-run day one and just, going gangbusters. So not everybody's going to be that way. Some people are going to be a little like more intimidated, kind of dip it in a little bit, dip out. And so I think if we can find that connection piece, and I think for us, at least on the Sarpy side, the biggest connection piece that we have is we have coffee on site. When you have, and we were talking about this morning after Sandlot and Steel Mill, when you have coffee on site, that it really adds, because there's a lot of guys that they're not, if they get in the car, they're going away, but they'll give you 5 minutes on site for coffee.
I think as long as, does an FNG maybe come back because they had a really good workout? Maybe. Does an FNG come back because they see the guys who are there actually caring about each other at the workout, at cafeteria afterwards? I think that's the key, is that and not just in the presence of an FNG, to genuinely care about the other packs in the circle, to genuinely care about the packs at cafeteria, to show genuine relationship to each other. If that's what's going on and an FNG sees that, why wouldn't they want to come back?
I mean, I think it comes back to all the different opportunities, not being pigeonholed. Duracell talked about this today at the steel mill, but, not pigeonholing us as a workout group. And even more so, we're not just a running group. We're not a weightlifting group. We're not there's the opportunity for you to pick where you fall into F3. There's 3 Fs. And there are variations of all of them. Do you like to go out to have a beer? Great, we got happy hours. Do lunch or cafeteria? Is that your second F? Perfect. Do you lift? Do you run? Whatever you have, there's a place that you will fit in. You will fall in love with it, but you got to just start. And the only way you do it is you go and for me, it's like, go to the Sandlot and realize how bad you are at running, to realize that, no, I like the steel mill a whole lot better, right? And so the ability to kind of pick your journey and pick the level of involvement you have, I think that's where the power is, because my guess is what I get today out of F3 isn't what Pony is going to get today or the Plague is going to get. There's some different thing that you needed today that I didn't, or I needed something you didn't. So pick your own journey and kind of stick with it and just figure that out. Find your sweet spot and enjoy it.
Yeah. Man, that's a good question. I guess I'd say I could give this advice, but I'm probably not truly following it right now. But it would be to, just keep showing up. The other thing, the real advice, actually more than that one's kind of crap. Let's give you different advice. The real one is to actually be vulnerable and be open with people. I think that's one of the, wait time calls cafeteria the glue, I believe. And I think the other part of that glue is the vulnerability of guys with each other and being honest. And so, if you're someone who's, there's a barrier and a wall, you're not letting guys in, it's going to be tough for them, to create a friendship. And so you got to kind of, I guess, break that barrier, that wall down a little bit and, be vulnerable, be honest. And that's the thing. It's like, all of our poop stinks, right? We all have problems. and so that's where, for me, the real value of F3 is you can really be honest with each other. And I mean, you're not going to get judged because somebody in this group has struggled in something that you're struggling in. And a lot of times we all think we don't have the same struggles and that we're special, but really we're not. So that'd be my main advice, is to just like hop in and be yourself too. You know, if you're funny, be funny. If you're very serious, be serious. But yeah. Yeah. Man, that's a good question. I guess I'd say I could give this advice, but I'm probably not truly following it right now. But it would be to, you know, just keep showing up. The other thing, the real advice, actually, more than that one's kind of crap. Let's give you different advice. The real one is to actually be vulnerable and be open with people. I think that's one of the, like, you know, wait time calls cafeteria the glue, I believe. And I think the other part of that glue is the vulnerability of guys with each other and being honest. And so, you know, if you're someone who's, you know, there's a barrier and a wall, you're not letting guys in, you know, it's going to be tough for them, you know, to create a friendship. And so you got to kind of, I guess, break that barrier, that wall down a little bit, and, you know, be vulnerable, be honest. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, all of our poop stinks, right? We all have problems. and so that's where, for me, the real value of F3 is, like, you can really be honest with each other. And I mean, you're not going to get judged because somebody in this group has struggled in something that you're struggling in. And a lot of times we all think we don't have the same struggles and that we're special, but, you know, really we're not. So that'd be my main advice, is to just like hop in and be yourself too. You know, if you're funny, be funny. If you're very serious, be serious. But yeah.
But don't be too serious, right? I think
don't be too serious, you know?
FNG, I would say to just lean in to like, don't have preconceived notions or whatever. Like, if somebody's coming up and talking to you while you're working out and you're there for the first time, it's not ungenuine. I don't even know if that's a word, but it is genuine. Like, they're reaching out because they're curious about you, about what your story is, and how you fit, you know, and just keep coming back. Like, it's so simple, but like, there is something, and I've been trying to put my finger on it, of what the glue is to the gloom. But I think it is different for everyone. And I can't quite put my finger on why I love it, but I think it's a combination of all the people, or all the men, and knowing that, like, as you grow older, your friends circle seriously shrinks. It's like, I think Plague even responded on a tweet. Like, I was listening to a podcast, and they said one of Jesus's best miracles, or her most astonishing miracles, was that he was mid-age and had 12 good friends. You know, like, that's what this can do. This could help grow your circle too, for anything that you're looking to do. Like, if it's jobs, if it's networking, anything.
Yeah. So I think for FNGs, it's I think it's that vulnerability side. Like, don't be afraid to talk about something you're struggling with, right? Don't be afraid to, because if you're struggling with it, I guarantee someone else is. And all of a sudden you got that relationship. Gator and I recently have talked about, you know, we both can lose our temper with our kids sometimes, like, you know, just get frustrated with them. And so now we talk about it and say, like, hey, how you doing? Oh, still losing it, but, you know, aware of it a little bit, right? And so it's just interesting. You learn about each other, and when someone has a similar challenge, it kind of connects you a little bit. So I think that vulnerability is what I would say for that.
The FNG, or the person who's first coming out, like even before the FNG at the site, right?
Right.
Post, right? And keep posting. And go to cafeteria. So it's a little, it's not one thing, it's a couple things. So first is post. Get out there and do a workout. And if you say it's too early or I'm out of shape or, we all heard the excuses. We've heard them all before. You can do it first and foremost. And when you get done with your first post, come back again. Doesn't have to necessarily be the following day. It could be a couple days down the road, like I was. I couldn't move the first couple days afterwards, but get back out there and post again. And then stay connected, just strike up a conversation. I know it's easier said than done, but like today when we were out at the launch of the Coop, a guy who's recently been showing up and he's been regular, which is great, is Sportiva. And, I'm just running next to him. I say, hey, how's it going, Sportiva? And I think the last couple of days I had to remind him what my name was, but that's fine. Right. And it's just those little things of, connecting with a guy like Stinkbait, right? He's leaning heavy into this right now. And that's something that's going to keep him engaged, and guys are going to start recognizing him and communicating with him. And it's a way for you to get connected into F3. So posting is the biggest thing, and you can do this. And then the second is just come to a cafeteria and talk to some guys, and you're going to realize that even though you may be in completely different walks of life or different businesses, or that person may never see you again because they're a district person, or they're out west, or they may just be coming through like Whiplash did with Seattle, F3 Seattle when he came. But you're building those relationships, and it just you'll see that it's a reason for you to come back, because you're having good conversations and you're learning about other men that frankly you would never get the opportunity to do if it wasn't for F3. So get to a cafeteria. I'll buy you a coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, the more engaged they can get right off the bat is crucial for that stickiness. Going back to that free delete book, I mean, I think, once you make it to a workout, that next assignment should be to read that book as soon as possible. And, and it's important that and I know I can definitely do a better job of it personally, is, making sure we're, reaching out to those individuals and following up, because, I mean, life and business, emotional connection, follow up, emotional connection, follow up, emotional connection, follow up. And the more that's happening, the more momentum carries to the next workout, to the next workout, to the next workout, to the point where it's a ritual. I mean, it's a part of your day-to-day existence. Even if, you take time off, something's going on in your life, or not able to make it out, like, F3 is still going to be there for you when you're ready again.
There's no difference, right, between a man that feels on 100th and Blondo to a man that feels, on 200th and Gretna Avenue, if that's even a thing, right? Or, Ashland Boulevard. It's the same thing. And what I would hope that never happens is that there's some sort of segmentation where we're this and you're that, right? But where we're all under the same umbrella, we're all going in the same direction. And one of the things is, I've been to other different city F3 communities, and there is some differences in some things, but there's so many similarities. Like the differences sometimes are how has it started, how has it ended, right? Like, within what the parameters of F3's, principles are, they're all there. But the reality is I can go anywhere in the country for the most part and
know that the guy that I'm next to, it has similar problems, right? Or similar experiences in life. And so I don't, that's my, my thing to that is like, hey, we're not different, right? When I was in the halfway house, it was run by a bunch of old military guys, and I had this counselor, and he'd say, I don't care what your mom told you, you ain't that unique, right? And that always sticks with me, right? And it's like, we think we have these unique problems. We think that we have these unique relationships. We think that we're different. We ain't, and he would tell me, he's like, you are no different than any other man in this room. And so I want that to be where people recognize that wherever you are. So.
And so if anyone that goes to the woodshed, I'm challenging you, if you bring an FNG, please fight your temptation to like be the security or safety blanket and like let them kind of figure it out. They'll be okay, I promise. All right, that's my plug.
So go for it.
I love that you said that, because as I listen to every one of these episodes and I hear these guys say things about, bringing out an FNG, nothing bothers me more than when somebody brings an FNG and then they just let them go off on their own. I am the complete opposite. I found myself like the last 3 or 4 times, like an FNG is just like roaming all by themselves, and I just right away I just go up and pair it with them because they have no idea what the hell they're doing. And so maybe it's a really good opportunity for us to, pair up with those guys so they can get to know someone. But for a long time, I hated it. I'm like, why aren't they with the guy that they brought? But I think you're exactly right. I think it actually does work better that
once or twice a week, than just do all the other opportunities.
I would tell the guy that shows up today that your second post is harder. The second post is going to be more difficult. And that's because you've now experienced the awkwardness that we all know to be F3, right? After your first post, you're like, yeah, I think I got to work out. If you're into fitness, you're going to go look at your fitness tracker and compare the, calorie burn to the calorie burn for your solo workout. And you're going to find, oh, I didn't burn as many calories, and I didn't know all the guys, and you're going to create a lot of story that prevents you from coming back that second time. So the second time is harder. And I would just say, come back the second time. And then I would also tell them, challenge yourself to go to coffee. And then my response when that guy tells me that he's got to work early would be to call him on that BS. I would tell you that going to your office at 8 o'clock when nobody else is there and responding to 5 additional emails is not nearly as valuable as 10-15 minutes of coffee with this group of guys that just wants to care about you.
Not everyone can go to the office at noon like you, Brandon.
Yeah, right. But that's what I would say, because I told myself for a long time, I don't have time for coffee. I got to go home and shower. And now, like, man, I can't tell you how many times I am just can't wait for coffee. And, to be honest, if conversations go in a certain direction, I may reschedule that 8 a.m. meeting if the guy is crying on my shoulder about life. I want to be there for my brothers, and honestly, that's sometimes more important than a meeting at work. But
for me, when I was first kind of considering F3 and then started participating, I was looking at it really just from the fitness aspect. And the fitness aspect is solid, but it's, we're not the only place that you can kind of get a workout in. The special parts that are going to kind of carry with you through the years are the second and third components. But you gotta kind of put yourself out there to experience those. You gotta maybe go to a cafeteria. You gotta maybe sign up for one of the service events. CSOP's coming up next weekend. That's a great opportunity to, obviously fitness oriented. We're going to be pretty challenging on that respect, but But there's some pretty cool relationship opportunities during that time as well. So those are all things that are really certainly we're outside of my comfort zone to start. And I think might be outside of a lot of people's comfort zone if they're just focused on the fitness side. But you're gonna miss out on a big aspect of it if you don't enjoy those or participate in those. So I would just say for someone that's new, or maybe, potentially listening to this and hasn't participated in F3 yet, or you have and you just done a workout or two, get to one of the cafeterias, and that's where you start to build the relationships and have an opportunity to talk, or maybe do a pre-run. That sometimes the beatdowns are hard to have a lot of mumble chatter in, but the pre-runs where you get or a ruck, where you get maybe 30 minutes to kind of on a smaller group setting.
So I did not say this about that first workout, but honestly, I wasn't sure I was coming back. I was like, that was interesting. All that counting was really strange, and that standing around in a circle, saying our names, that was weird. I honestly wasn't sure I was coming back. So if I could give any piece of advice to an FNG, it would be come again. The first week is awkward. The first time you post is awkward. You are going to get a name that there's a good chance you're not going to like your name. You're going to do some exercises that you're going to have a really difficult time explaining to your family and friends when they ask you what you did. But come back. That when you get to workout 2, workout 3, workout 4, and you start getting to talk to some of the other guys, when you get that like fatherly interloper of khakis running next to you who tells you, you know what, you're not going to be the 6th soon. Somebody else will be, and just remember to help them. But you've got to come back, to workout 2 or 3 to get to that point. So that's what I'd tell an FNG. It's just
it's a shared experience that's just built in. I mean, there's quite possibly no easier way for a man to meet friends, in the society that we have. There's no more wholesome or better, easier, cheaper, right, way to meet friends than in this group. And I suppose if you've, if you got tons of friends, and you never want for that, then that's fine. But I would also ask, what are those relationships like, and what are they based upon? Are they based upon drinking beer and talking about sports? Because when you get together with guys to drink beer and talk about sports, you're not talking about your work life. You're not talking about other things that maybe are if you can believe it, there are things more important in the world than sports. How are things going with the family and the kids, and how do you really see yourself, and are you happy, and all this sort of stuff. And it's in the gloom and in this group and the opportunities that it has for you to really meet people and develop relationships that can keep you from depression, that can at least help you anyway, from depression, anxiety, addictions, all sorts of things that are just healthy and helpful. And so I would just offer whatever encouragement I have to people to come back a few times, come back and get that feel, after your 6th or 8th time, when you realize these people know my nickname, and I'll be damned, I know their nicknames too. And I know what they're doing out here in the gloom. Once you get in, and realize what the opportunity it provides, it can become a really important part of your life.
You guys, I would say, lean in and come back. Whatever workout you did that day, whatever you've done 2 or 3 times, they're always going to be different. If you didn't like it, go to a different side. If it maybe wasn't quite what you were looking for, ask some of the other guys. Maybe there's a different site that does some different things. It's such a unique thing, F3, in terms of you know, people, is it a cult or whatever? I mean, it's such an odd thing for somebody to come across as an initial experience. And sometimes a first impression may not always be the best. And sometimes it might be awesome. But once you have gone a few times and get that comfort level, and obviously go to coffee. I didn't go to coffee for a long time, but once I started doing that, that's a whole different experience, just in terms of people's welcomeness and ability to bring you into the groove. It's, I would say, just go enough times to make a truly informed decision about whether or not it's for you or not. Because there's so many levels to it that there's a lot of things to be for you in it. I mean, there's so many things you might benefit from that you don't even know. So,
yeah, I think the thing I would say is just keep coming back and get plugged in more things. Come to coffee. I know some guys just come for the workout and they got to leave right afterwards. I think it's harder to be connected to the pack when you're not sticking around for coffee. I know some guys, their work schedule doesn't allow for it, but you know, if you do have a day off or a week off from work and you are able to attend coffee, I would definitely do it. And you know, it's like anything else in life. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And there's always a way to make the workout a little harder. And
yeah, just make sure you introduce yourself. And I'm always big on that. And what would slow pitch do?
There you go.
So slow pitch is going to go up and greet them and, you know, find out a little about them. And then he's going to work out with them. I know when I was a newer guy and I didn't know many of the PAX members, I know Safe Ride was super friendly to me and always came up to me and made sure I was coming back the next day. And it's just important to just reach out, because, I mean, imagine going to a place where it's dark out, it's cold out, you don't know anybody, and you have these guys that are just all so close with each other, and you're just the outsider, right? So it gives you anxiety. Me personally, I don't care. I'm going to go say what's up to everybody, but a lot of people might feel a little anxious about that. So just go up to them, introduce them. And then we do a great job of it. I'm not saying we don't, but make sure that you're greeting everybody, you're welcoming. And I'm a big sharer, so I always share my story. And, you know, and if I can get in shape, you can get in shape. And people are coming to F3 for different reasons, whether it's, you know, to work out, to meet some new people, to develop a stronger faith, you know, whatever the case, find out what that is and, you know, tell them your journey about it. Sharing is huge. Putting yourself in a position of vulnerability, I mean, that'll strike a chord with anybody and keep them coming back for sure.
Just tell them what it's done for you. Yeah. You know, I am not the world's greatest headlocker. Actually, it's kind of funny. That's not really my gift, but you know, I do headlock guys, and the way I do it is just tell them the truth, man. You know, I was a fat, lonely, faithless man, and I usually tell them I had a pretty good vision of where my life was going. I could see the trajectory.
Yeah,
I've been around enough older men to know, and
there was a flushing sound,
and it wasn't good, and I was ready to try anything. So if you're ready to try anything, give this a shot. The worst thing that can happen is you throw up all over yourself, and get a goofy name.
That's right.
Question we always ask, and it's, what advice would you give an FNG?
What advice would I give an FNG? Wow. Well, I think the first advice I would say is come back. You know, like I really think the big thing is what we've already said is see this as something more than a workout. If you see this only as a workout, you are not going to fully appreciate its power. And so, how do you ease yourself in? I don't really encourage an FNG to go too fast and think that, they have to be queuing a workout in the first month of them joining F3. It's great if they do, but I don't think they should put pressure on themselves that way. Ease into it, get to know the guys, but do it through the fellowship piece. The faith aspects of it will come along. And, I don't think you should try to microwave a need to be vulnerable and share in a COT until you're ready. But the biggest thing I would just say is take comfort in the fellowship parts of who we are, and because that's where we're way more than a CrossFit gym or a fitness center or a personal trainer type relationship that you can go do if you just purely want to be fit.